In this video, we will show you how to replace your window regulator with motor assembly on this Ford F-150. This will be mounted inside of your front door. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're going to have to remove the front door panel. To do that, let's start up on the top corner here on this trim piece. To remove this, I'm going to be using a plastic trim tool and we'll gently pry it out of place. There we are. Just a quick inspection along the back side there. You can see all those locking tabs. We'll set that aside. Behind that trim panel, along the top of the door panel, you're going to find a 7mm mounting bolt. Inspect your hardware as you remove it, replace as necessary. Let's move along to our window switch. To dislodge the window switch, we're going to use a small pocket screwdriver and carefully start prying it up. This has several locking tabs. Now continuing from there, we're going to disconnect the window switch from its wiring harness. The wiring harness itself has a small locking tab. You just want to go ahead and press that in and disconnect this. A quick inspection on each side for corrosion. We'll set the window switch aside. As you move below that, you're going to find your door lock switch. We'll disconnect that once the door panel is dislodged. So you want to keep in mind there is wiring along the back side. Let's make our way to the grab handle. We're going to remove the plastic trim panel. For this, once again, I'm just using a small pocket screwdriver. I'm going to make my way in this area and gently start prying it out and away from the door panel. Once it starts to separate, we'll just continue on down the line here, removing it from the door. There we are. We'll just pull that out of place. Along the back side, you will have several locking tabs. We'll just pay close attention to those. Those look good. You have this one hooked area. That hooked area is going to go behind this area, right where your armrest is. We'll set that aside. Continuing on, you have two 7mm mounting bolts. You find one in this port here, and the other one's just behind this area, close to the armrest. Now we're moving just below the grab handle. You're going to find a small plastic panel here. It has a couple locking tabs. We're going to gently pry from the top, pulling it downward and removing it. Behind there, there's two more 7mm mounting bolts. You can use a pick, small screwdriver, whatever you need to get in this area. There's those locking tabs. Along the bottom, you have these small locating ears. Those will fit into their corresponding slots. And there's our two mounting bolts. Now we're moving to the bottom of the door panel. You're going to find two more 7mm headed mounting bolts. Get the other one right over here. Now we're going to start dislodging the door panel from the door itself using a plastic trim tool. You want to try to make your way in between the door panel and the door. We're using plastic so we don't scratch up our paint. It can be a little bit difficult getting behind here initially. There we are. Going to start separating this now. Make our way all the way across the bottom area. Up the sides. Now, as we start pulling this away, there's going to be a couple things that we want to pay attention to. First thing is up at the door lock knob here, we'll have to carefully pull the door panel up enough that it makes its way out through its mounting port. But once you do start pulling this away, you also have your inner door handle cable, and you also have the wiring harness for your door lock switch. Just a quick inspection of that cable. Now we have our electrical wiring harness here. We have one locking tab right where my thumb is. Go ahead and press that in. Quick inspection for corrosion. Remove the door panel. Continuing on with the door panel out of the way, we're going to remove our vapor barrier from the area. The vapor barrier itself is clear. You can see through it, but you do see this black line making its way all the way around. That's the adhesive holding it in place. It looks as though ours has already been dislodged. When I go to put this in, I'm going to try to make sure that everything's sealed. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and carefully pull this out of place. You don't want to get this on your clothing. It can cause issues. Moving along, let's remove our speaker from the door, starting with the wiring harness. One locking tab, squeeze it in, disconnect it. As far as dislodging the speaker itself from the door, you're going to find that you have 4 7mm headed mounting bolts to remove, and we can get the speaker out of here. Continuing from here, we're going to have to reconnect our window switch. We'll line this up, press it in, listen for a click. Now put the key in the on position. Now we're going to have to pay attention to the window regulator. This side over here is kind of hard to see. This side's out in the open. I'm going to start carefully lowering the window, making sure that nothing is inside this area while I do so. Of course, any pinch points. But what we're paying attention to is the bottom of the window glass and the small white adapters, which hold the window glass in place. Now we can hang the window switch aside and remove key power. Now that we have the window down in an area that we can gain access to the 2 adapters, we're going to want to make sure we clean the window glass and have something that'll be able to hold the window glass in the fully upright position once it is unlocked from the window regulator. Use some glass cleaner on this and a clean rag. We finished washing the window. To tape this up, I'm going to be using some masking tape or painter's tape, call it what you want. Aside from that, I'm using a plastic trim tool down at that white adapter, holding the glass to that window regulator. Make my way right along the back side of the glass area. I'm trying to pry in between that white adapter. It has a small locking tab. Once you've pulled that away far enough, you should be able to lift up on the glass, dislodging it. There we are, I have one side dislodged. We're going to pause on this side, make our way over to the other side of the window regulator, repeating this process. Once both sides are broken free, we'll carefully lift the window into the fully upright position and hold it there with whatever you're using to hold it in the upright position, such as tape, like I mentioned. Now in through the door speaker area here, we can see the next adapter. This is easiest with the trim tool from the larger port. I'm just gonna make my way from the inboard side here, gently start prying that tab away. There we are. Now we'll go ahead and take hold of the window and we're going to start raising it into the fully upright position. And we're going to have to hold it there. This can be easiest with a second person helping you. I have my painter's tape ready. We'll go ahead and start bringing this up. All right. You want to be extremely careful at this point that the glass does not fall down. It can be dangerous and costly. We'll use several strips of tape for this. Tape is a lot cheaper than glass. Just a couple more here. Perfect. Now, anytime we're inside the door, continuing on, you want to be extremely careful that window glass does not come down. With that said, let's pay attention to the connector for that window motor. Just go ahead and squeeze in on the locking tab. We'll disconnect this. Quick inspection for corrosion. Now we'll start dismounting the window regulator from the door. You're going to find 5 pieces of mounting hardware. We'll be using a 10mm for each. As far as this side along here, there's 2 10mm mounting nuts. There's one up and behind this port right here. We'll just go ahead and peel the tape away. The second one's located down at the bottom here. As we move towards the center of the door, you'll find one 10mm headed mounting bolt. That's going to go in where the window motor is. And then there's 2 more pieces of mounting hardware over in this area. One of them's going to be right behind this panel. That one's going to be the hardest one to get to. Aside from that, if you were to move straight below it, there's our last 10mm headed mounting nut. Start getting this tape out of the way here. There's our 10mm. There's that one. Let's make our way down to this one. Make our way into the middle. Just get the one behind this area as well. For this one, I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch 10mm. Try to make my way in here. Careful not to scratch the paint. Last one. With all the hardware out of there, you can carefully take hold of the window regulator. We're going to give it a little wiggle. You'll have to push it towards the inboard side of the door here so we can remove the studs from the door itself. Once we have one side dislodged, we'll repeat the process on the other. The top studs are typically the hardest. Start removing this from the door. There it is, friend. Let's get the window regulator in the door. Just gonna slide one side down in there. We'll rest it in. Continuing on, we've got the side with the motor. Start bringing this up into position. Once again, we're paying attention to that window glass. We do not want it to fall down. Swing this over. Now we're going to start aligning the window regulator with the door itself, pushing those studs through their corresponding ports. I'm going to start with the top one. It's the hardest one to get to here. There we are. I've got that one through there. Let's make our way down to the bottom. Just see if we can get that one aligned. Now, while holding light pressure here, let's go ahead and start on the 2 mounting nuts and the 1 mounting bolt in the center. Okay, get this one started on. Start tightening them up. Right there is bottomed out. We'll just take it a little bit further here. I'm going to protect the area with its protective tape. Now let's do the other side of the window regulator, starting with the top. Now that we have that secured, let's continue on to our electrical connector here. We'll just go ahead and plug that in. listen for a click, make sure it's secure. Now you don't want to leave this dangling in here. It can rattle around while you're driving down the road or even get caught in the window glass. So you just want to go ahead and tie it down in some way. I'm going to use a wire tie and I'll bring it right down along this wiring harness. Now it's going to be time to start lowering the window down into the proper locked position. We're going to be paying attention along each side of the window regulator for those small white adapters. Each one of the adapters has a small tab that's going to go into the circular port on the bottom of the window. We want to make sure we have the window aligned with each one of the adapters properly before completely locking it in. Let's start removing the tape and slowly start lowering the window down. Start slowly lowering this down. Okay, it's resting on the adapters. Now we're just going to confirm we're properly aligned with both of them before locking it in, just as I mentioned. If you were to look closely at the adapters where the window is supposed to slide in, it's possible that the window is sitting in the wrong area. If the window is sitting on the outside, it's not going to lock in, it's going to bind up in some way and potentially break something. We'll just make sure we are properly aligned with those adapters. After our confirmation, let's go ahead and slide this down. Listen for an audible click from each side and gently lift up, confirming it's properly locked in. Now let's test the functionality. We'll put the key in the on position. We're going to test the functionality of the regulator, and we also have to do a window motor initialization process. To do this, we're going to power the window to the fully upright position, and then it's going to come down a little bit. We'll fully power it back up to the fully upright position, and then we'll make our way all the way down to the bottom. Once it's at the bottom, we're going to bring it all the way up to the top and confirm everything's working the way it should. All right, it comes down. Let's go up again. Hold that for 1 second, and now we're going to power the window down. Let's test to make sure it goes all the way up to the fully upright position and stays. Perfect. Remove key power and remove your switch. Now it's time to install our door speaker. Make sure you have it in the proper orientation. Once you have that pressed into the door, start in all 4 of the mounting bolts. Once they're all started, snug them up. Time for the electrical connector. Press it in, listen for a click, a light tug, making sure it's secured. Now we can reinstall our vapor barrier in the proper space here. Just go ahead and line it up, press it in. Just make sure it's sealed all the way around. Now it's time to install the door panel. Along the sides, you're going to find that you have locating tabs and several push tabs to lock everything in. That makes its way all the way around. Aside from that, we also have the area for the door lock switch. And in the center of the door panel, you have the area for the inside door handle. This is where that cable is going to come up and through. Let's start bringing this close to being in position here. We're going to start with the door lock switch. It's a little bit difficult to get the door panel up close enough. Press it in, listen for a click. We'll make sure that we can gain access to this wiring harness. This is for the window switch. Now let's make our way to the inside door handle cable. As for this, we're going to have to come in at an angle, starting with the top area first, and then roll it into place, down along the bottom area. Press it in, listen for a click. We'll just give that a little tug, making sure it's properly secured. If it comes loose, the inside door handle may not function properly. Let's make sure we have the cable going underneath this area. Now we can start bringing the door panel up close to the door. We're going to have to come up nice and high so we can get it over this ridge and over the door lock knob. Just try to help that get into the port. Can be a little bit difficult getting it aligned. As you start bringing the door panel down along the top, we want to have the bottom pulled out and away. We'll just set the whole top in, making our way all the way across, pressing it down. Now we'll start paying attention along each side. We're looking for where those locking clips line up with their ports on the door. Once everything's aligned, you can continue on pressing it in. We'll just tap that in all the way around. Quick confirmation all the way around, making sure we're perfectly secured here. That feels good. Let's move along to our mounting hardware. I'm going to start with the lower mounting hardware here. Let's get that in line. Making our way up, we're going to start just below that grab handle. We have our two 7mm mounting bolts. Go ahead and start in each of those and we'll snug them up. Install your protective cover, starting from the bottom with those locating tabs, roll it in along the top for the two locking tabs. Let's move up to the grab handle. Start in these mounting bolts as well. Let's install our protective cover. We're going to start with this area right along here and we'll roll it in, locking in all of our locking tabs into their corresponding ports. A couple light taps, confirm it's secure. Now we're making our way up to the upper corner. It's time for the trim panel. We have our locking tabs. We'll make sure those are aligned with their corresponding ports. Press it in. Now it's time for our window switch. Start with the electrical connector, press it in, listen for a click, a light tug. Continuing on, we have that one tab that will slide underneath the door panel. Other than that, we have several locking tabs that will press right in. Just double check, make sure that's secure. Okay friend, we finished our installation and tested the functionality. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.